Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Delia Fang, Chief Student Officer at ReachIvy.com. ReachIvy.com is a premium education and careers advisory. We offer end-to-end assistance from counseling and profile building, college selection, to help with brainstorming and essay editing for your applications, interview prep, and a host of career guidance as well as life skill coaching sessions. Over the last decade, we've established a very strong presence in this domain and have admits across top schools in the world, from LSE in Oxford in Europe to Harvard, Columbia, Stanford, etc. in the US, and of course ISB in US, etc. in Asia. We've also been featured in Business World, Economic Times, Education World, and other top publications. A very warm welcome to our webinar with Regina Nitin, Associate Director Admissions and Financial Aid from the Indian School of Business. Regina is a graduate from UCLA Anderson School of Management and has over 15 years of experience spanning various sectors from BPO, insurance, healthcare, and education. Before joining ISB, she was working with the UHG as a Senior Manager, Strategic Learning Solutions. Very warm welcome to this webinar, Regina, and over to you.
Thank you so much, Divya. That was a very generous introduction. And I know ReachIvy is already doing a wonderful job, and I want to thank you for this opportunity that you've given us today to directly speak with the aspiring students, whether it is in India or abroad, but aspiring to go to a great B school. So, welcome everyone to the seminar, and I hope that I am able to answer all your questions that you either already have or you've already submitted that, Divya had given me a heads up. So, sure. So can I just start with the presentation then?
Sure.
Great. Are you able to see view the screen? Divya, are you able to view the screen?
Yes, please go ahead.
Great. I'm sure, the candidates who've come today over this webinar would already have some idea about ISB, but I would not assume anything, and I will take you through what ISB is, what has been our vision, and why do we aspire to do what we do today. So the idea or the genesis of ISB was that there was an aspiration to create a premier B school in Asia, an institution that will rank amongst the best business schools in the world and that will develop future leaders, not only in the country, but throughout the globe. So with that idea is when the industrialists came together, wanted to start something in India, looked for a space, and we said we wanted something in Asia. The idea was also that most of the management practices have come from the West, and it actually has, it solves the problems that the West has. Now, as an emerging economy, it was important that we could have something here which could solve the problem of our nature or of the emerging markets or of the economic needs that was arising here in Asia itself. So the idea was to have a B school which dealt with all of that. The vision, if you see, it has been always and is very true and close to our hearts. It is to be an internationally top-ranked, research-driven, independent management institution that grooms future leaders for India and the world. And we have been living by this vision day in, day out. Because if you see in the FT rankings, year after year, we've been trying that we advance ourselves. So last year from 28, we've now come to 24, and we'll always aspire to be better every year. Now, it's very important that any good B school is rooted in research, and that is because we want to remain absolutely relevant. We want to solve the problems of today and the future. We want the talent to be future ready, to be agile enough to take up anything that comes in way of issues. Uh, the shelf lives of every program, if you see, needs to be based out of how the future is going to be. It cannot be what yesterday was or what it is today. And that is the reason research is core to ISB. We have alums all over the world in more than 40 countries. Faculty, which means every term we bring in faculty from abroad, an entire term, which means that it's a 6-week term, and every faculty that we bring in from the top 20 B schools or top 50 B schools, they would stay with you, or the students for the whole term. That is how it works. We have about 150 visiting faculty and 50 resident faculty at this point in time. I'm moving on, and I'm taking you to the slide which says advantages. If you see, we've been ranked number 5 as the most desired B school. What does that really mean is that and this was done by Poets and Quants. When Poets and Quants did the research saying that, internationally, which is the safest campus? And it doesn't come with a surprise, and it's a great news for all of us that Hyderabad campus, I mean, in India, and of course Mohali, because we do not have um, an idea of how two different schools are. It is not Hyderabad versus Mohali, but it is the idea of one school and two campuses.
Sure.
So
Can I request you to move to the next slide, please? We are still on the first slide.
oh, I moved on. Is it still showing the first slide for you?
Yes, if you could just move to full screen mode, please. So our viewers can see the PPT.
Are you able to see? Could you tell me which slide are you on, and I'll be able to tell you that.
We are on the first slide right now.
Which says ISB, is it?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I've moved on to the third one.
Perfect. Now we are on vision.
Okay, great.
Advantages. Thank you.
Thank you, Divya, for pointing that out.
No worries.
Is it changing for you at all? You're on the vision slide, I'm assuming. Divya, am I audible?
Yes, you're audible. Please go ahead.
Okay, great. So we are on the advantages slide, and if you see, we are the most desired B school, and I was going to tell you that, to our great surprise and a happy moment is that ISB's campuses have been, have been the most safest campuses in the world. And that's a great point, not just for ISB, but for India, because if you see, when we touch upon the international aspect of the school, I think every person who wants to come to the school wants to remain safe, wants to feel safe, and this just seals this idea that in India you're not just welcome, but you're going to be safe as well. So that's one point that I wanted to highlight. FT ranking we already touched upon. We are number 24 in the world. It's number 26 in the world for women's MBA. We are 44 in finance and 70th for research. And as I was talking to you, that research has been the core of ISB. It is important for us to remain relevant and to remain future ready, and that is where research comes into picture. I know 70 does not look like a great number, but when you think of the world and the number of institutions that are out there, I think we all need these steps to remain ahead of time, and we would always inch towards being excellent in this field as well. I'm just going to move on, and I'm going to take you to the PGP suite that we have. I'm sorry, I think it's just taking a little time for it to load onto or get into the other slide. Divya, has the slide moved for you? Are you on the PGP suite?
Yes, I'm on the PGP suite slide.
Great. Just before we get into the PGP suite, let me tell everyone that we at AFA, which is Admissions and Financial Aids, we manage 4 long-term programs. These 4 long-term programs are known as the PGP suite. The first one is the flagship program, which is postgraduate program in management. We have the next one, which is postgraduate program in management for working professionals. I will give you the details slide by slide, but just to summarize, we also have another program which is for postgraduate, which is known as the postgraduate program for senior executives, and then we have the postgraduate program for family businesses. So these are the 4 long-term programs that we manage at AFA. We'll begin with the postgraduate program in management, which is our flagship program. We have about 900 intake. The number to be precise would be 996 this year. 896 this year. It's a 1-year residential full-time program. The segment, of course, is mid-career. It would be rather correct to say that it is towards the early mid-career because, the average work experience today is about 4.3 years. We take people from 2 years and above of experiences, except for if they come through something called a Young Leaders Program, which where we allow people to come in after 20 months of experience. If you see the selection process, it is almost straightforward. It has an application. You have to have a GMAT or a GRE. There has to be recommendations, essays, and then the interview, and then is the enrollment. This is how it works. Let me move on and take you to PGP Pro, which is an alternate weekend MBA, which we do right now in 4 cities. And that is Hyderabad, Mumbai, Bangalore, and Delhi. This is an 18-month program. It is, done right now in a hotel at the cities that we are in. This is for people who are at about 5 to 12 years of experience. And for some reason, they haven't been able to take off the time to go into a school again and do a full-time program. It could be for various reasons, at what stage of life they are, or, what are the, there could be a lot of things that they're dealing with in their family, but they always aspired to be a part of a great ecosystem or a great B school. And that is why when we heard this, we wanted to bring this to everyone. And therefore, we took the program and ISB to these different cities. The selection process, again, is an application. This is more portfolio-based selection process, and it does not require a GMAT or a GRE. But of course, it has everything else that a PGP has, apart from the GMAT and GRE. The average work experience of people right now in the classes that we have is about 9.7 years. Coming to PGP Max, which is another program, and it's a creme de la creme program because this one is for senior executives, which is CXO minus one kind of a gentry. You see, the program has a 15-month modular program. Um, we generally see the senior management team coming in for these programs. Though the work experience range between 10 to 25 years, right now the average is about 17 years in the class. The selection process again is everything else minus the GMAT and GRE. Um, this right now we do in two cohorts. That means we have an April intake and an August intake as well. Um, the last one in the PGP suite is the PGP MFAB, which is designed for family businesses. These are for the second or the third generation family businesses, where the younger ones are coming in and taking over their family businesses from their fathers, mothers, grandparents, and what they are trying to do is corporatize it or make it more global in nature, and therefore they want to back it up with a management education which can help them accelerate this process or allow them to learn certain skill set that's required. If you see, the work experience is about 4+ years. The selection process has an exam in this, which is known as the business acumen test, along with the rest of the processes, which are your application itself, the essays, the interview, etc. So these are the 4 programs that we have. If you really see what is the advantage of being in ISB is that we already are a school which was the founding school of which is Kellogg and Wharton. The idea that we had about being, mentored by a Kellogg or Wharton is because we wanted a school that replicated the idea of a school of the West, yet nurtured the values of the East and dealt with the problems of the East. And therefore, we have area leaders who are appointed by Wharton and Kellogg, who sit out of ISB. They look at the curriculum, they design it, they ensure that they pick up the case studies which are relevant to us. If you largely see, though we'll come to those sections later, but if you see at ISB, we largely use the case study methodology. We do a lot of collaborative learning, and therefore it's important that we understand where are these really coming from. So industry and education has to go hand in hand. It is more practical than theoretical. So that's the reason follow how the West does. We are globally accredited, and it is only we've been the first school in Southeast Asia to be to have these accreditations from ICWIS and AASCAB. So if you see that while we do not write an MBA as a degree on the certificates, we give you a certificate which is called PGP, but you should feel comfortable and reassured that these are globally, globally honored, and that people recognize these, and so there should be no problem at all should you go anywhere with our certificates. Now, we have about 10,000 plus alums. In fact, this year we graduated and we became 10,000 plus family at ISB. And that's a great network to have. These are the people who are like-minded. They've been the most talented. That coming to ISB for most of the people is a dream. And that means so many people who had similar dreams had been a part of ISB, and now they are the alum network. The moment you are in the ecosystem of ISB, you get to meet with them, you get to be a part of that family, and you can get as much help that you would require either to accelerate your career or solve your issues, which could be personal, professional, both. Start a business, own a business, partner with them. I think this becomes a playground really for anything that you want to experiment. Faculty has been the strength for us because if you see, we not only want the students to learn from each other, which is a great part of our learning, but from the faculty, which is world renowned. Top of my mind, I can refer to faculty like a Bruce Allen, who's been the advisor to the US government for underground transportation. He teaches public relationships. There are professors from NASA who teach you operations. We have homegrown professors, who had PhDs from Chicago Booth, etc. And currently, the chief economic advisor of the country is Professor Subramaniam Krishnamurthy, who had been the finance professor with us. So there is no dearth of the faculty that you see. We have Professor Bhagwan Chaudhary, who is now at campus, who himself is the authority in blockchain. So you get the best, from the entire world who come to ISB, who teach you, who stay with you for the whole term. Do not leave you with one or two of their master classes. And I think that is the beauty of being at ISB. So while being in India, you have the world's best universities from where your professors are. We talked a lot about the research part, how we value research. In fact, we're so research driven that we have 4 executive excellence, the centers for excellence, which we call the RCIs. We also have, these smaller units where we deal with certain amount of papers which are absolutely current, which we want people to know, keep updated. Once you are at ISB, you would be a part of all of that, and anything that you want to know, the entire place is for you to figure out whichever side is your interest. You can just pick up those and collaborate and learn. I already spoke about this. While Kellogg and Wharton stays as the founding schools, we also have the associate schools, which are London Business School, MIT, Fletcher School of Law. So these are the global accreditation, and EMBAC comes for us as a third accreditation that we have for the exec education, which is for the PGP Pro, PGP MFAB, and PGP Max. We talked about the alumni network that you have, and what I missed telling you was that we also have alums who are at CXO or top leadership position, who are, who make about the top 10, 5% of our alums are in the CXO and top leadership positions today. We also have more than 400 business or entrepreneurs, business families or entrepreneurs who are with us as alums. You name the universities and we have faculties from there. So I think we already talked about the pool of visiting faculty that we have at ISB. It's more than 150, and they come from top 70 B schools. These are certain names that you would see of the faculty that we have. We talked about Bruce Allen, we talked about Professor Subramaniam Krishnamurthy, Bhagwan Chaudhary. We also have Mark Finn, Amartya Lahiri. I think it'll be a great idea to look up their names and see for yourself who are these people, and then to see what you could probably learn from them. These are our four institutes inside ISB which are focused on research. We have Bharati Institute of Public Policy, we have Max for healthcare, we have Munjal for global manufacturing, and Punj Lloyd for infrastructure management. And as I was telling you that we have so much of focus on research that we have center of excellence in couple of things. One is the analytical finance. We have innovation and entrepreneurship, learning and management practices. Srini Raju for IT and network economy. We have Thomas Maitani Center for Family Enterprises. Besides this, what we also have is design labs, which is the incubation center where you could actually incubate your own business, come up with an idea, and we will help you, with your pitch, with getting people to fund that business. If you have an idea, I think ISB has a platform for you to, showcase that. So coming to the class of 2020, I think this is one of our very core things that we do, and which is how do we manage diversity? How do we bring in people from different backgrounds, different industry, so that the learning is enriched? There is, because it's not just in the classroom that you learn or from the professors that you learn. I think who you learn with, and from them how much you learn. The peer learning is one of the key things at ISB that we practice. And you would see that in the slide, it's very evident that if you see, what is the age profile, the work experiences, the test scores, gender diversity, the international passport holders, the engineers versus the non-engineers, I think it is all there for you to see. And very proud moment for us, because this year we've achieved 39% on gender diversity. 39% female on gender diversity, which also gives us a lot of hope in terms of women rising up and getting into leadership positions. Because what we've always seen is that once you pass out of ISB and take up your jobs, slowly you would be a part of the leadership team. It could just be a matter of time, how soon or how, what is the period that you're taking. But this gives us a great hope that we would be seeing a lot of women in the boardrooms. If you see the age profile, it's between 22 to 46 years, because there are people who come in to do a full-time program, even if they have about 20 years of work experience. At times, we ask them this question that, why are you doing this? At 20 years of work experience, why would you want to come back and be with the younger ones? And few of them who've done this and taken this plunge would say that there's so much to learn from this generation. And with this immersive 1-year resident program, it allows you to challenge yourself, or to see what is that you hadn't done earlier, and come up with newer findings for your own self. And I think that is what is very amazing about this flagship program. I'm going to move on, and I'm going to tell you who are these people who are there in the classroom today. So if you see, we have social activists, bloggers, patent holders, we have doctors, sports lovers, musicians, public speakers, dancers, army officers, you name it, and you would probably find one of India's best person out there in whichever domain that you see here. So that is how exciting the class looks like. We have a great global network, and I think I already spoke about that. That we are not only here in India, but we are in more than 40 countries. In fact, you know, we are we do have lot of alums and professors from all over the world, and every place has its own chapter, and that allows you to network with them and see if there is something that can help accelerate your future. And that's all open to everyone who is in the ISBs network, so or the ecosystem. These were the slides basically that we had to share with you. Divya, would you have anything specific from me that you would want to know?
So thanks so
Then we
much,
could move
Regina.
on
That
to the next.
was really informative. Thank you so much for sharing those slides with our viewers. We have a couple of questions, we've received from students just to, gain a deeper understanding to ISB and what it takes to get there. So I'm just going to share some of them with you. So one of the things our students wanted to know, now you've told us about ISB, the why it was founded, etc. But could you share a bit more of the background? Anything you'd like to throw light upon, like the philosophy, etc.
Sorry, Divya, I just couldn't hear your question properly. Would you just repeat yourself again?
Sure. Uh, we wanted to just understand a little more background to ISB. If you could throw a little more light upon the same, little more about the philosophy of your school, etc.
Sure, absolutely. I think in the beginning, of course, I had told you that how did ISB even come into picture,
Right.
right? I mean, it was not born of a single blinding flash of inspiration, but it was an idea of so many different minds who came together, and it was conceptualized gradually, but it had to be done in a way that it can hold on as an idea and grow and become rich as an idea and sustain itself. And that is how it was. We wanted this institution which had to be top ranked, which had to have international faculty. We wanted to give outstanding facilities, provide world class education that would not only attract the Indian population, but the population of the world. That was how we wanted it to be, but we wanted it in a very Asian context. The idea was, as I was telling you, that management practices have been largely based on how it has been in the West.
Correct.
Culturally, economically, the kind of trends that we are seeing it today, the emerging markets that's coming in, we realize that we ourselves have a lot of such strengths which is rooted in our culture, but that hadn't been honed. And therefore, while we wanted to take a structure that is being tested in the West, we wanted to copy that way of learning, but wanted to root it in our own culture so that we benefit by being here, by being in Asia, yet incorporate the world here. And therefore, that has been largely the philosophy of the school.
Great.
Um,
Great. You also took us through the various MBA programs, which you have right now. So anything which you'd like to add about your flagship program, Regina?
Yeah, I think the flagship program, is a buzz that we hear everywhere while we are doing immensely well with our executive programs as well. The flagship program, I think, is such a beautiful concept that we've, embraced from the West and inculcated the attributes of the East and Asia, that today when people come out of this program, they're future ready, they are Asia ready, they are world ready. So that is how we've been. We wanted to provide a distinct emphasis on managing in high growth, rapidly changing economies through the integration of leading management approaches to a very Asian context. So that is how our flagship program is run. We also have exchange programs in 42 countries during the flagship program. So, you can choose to have 2 terms from anywhere that you want to. Of course, you apply and you have to get through to it. But that's another side of exposure that we give. What is the kind of classroom and out of classroom learning? If you see, we have classes from Monday to Thursday, and Friday, Saturday, Sunday sounds like a holiday, and yet that's the most busy schedule that our students go through, because either they are preparing for exams, or they're preparing for the next assignments, or they're just getting ready to take on more work for the next week.
Sure.
Apart from just being in the classroom, we have a dedicated team known as SEAL, which is student engagement and applied learning department. And this department brings in people together, which is more like a out of classroom learning. We have more than 80 clubs that we have at ISB. You name a club and you have it. Most of it is run by the students, but SEAL is the guiding or the binding department. They bring in these people together. Why we wanted a department to do this is because we understand that you're trying to do everything in this one year. That means there's so much of study, and the rigor of the program is so high that a lot of times you might think that you would really break down, and that's true. But what then SEAL comes into picture for is that to find out what is your forte. At ISB we always say that people suffer from something called FOMO, fear of missing out, because there's so much that you can do. And therefore, we tell them that come with some clarity, but also allow yourself or give yourself permission to experiment, to find out what you probably would have never dreamt of doing outside the safety net of ISB. And that was the idea of having a department to do this entire thing in a very organized way. If you think that there is a club that is missing and you have an interest group that can come together to form a club, we do that as well. So this is in ISB and outside the classroom ISB for you.
Okay. So there's also a lot of curiosity among our students about what a classic day on campus would look like. So, if you could shed a little light on that, and maybe also tell us about one or two classes which are really popular, or professors.
Absolutely. The classes generally begin at 8 a.m. In fact, I'll give you a small personal anecdote. When I was joining ISB, and it was a typical day in September, and I walked into the campus and I could hear nothing. I couldn't imagine that we had more than 1,000 students in different capacities. They could be exec studies, or they could be 600 is the flagship program that Hyderabad has, and we have about 290 plus in Mohali. So so many students, and you don't hear anything. It is pin drop silent. I was really worried. I was thinking, is it a holiday? Is there something wrong? Is there something that I don't know? And I then realized that it was a Wednesday, and people were just going from one classroom to another, starting from 8 a.m. I could only see students in their breaks for some time in the canteen. We have Goyal and Bajaj as canteens and some stores, and I could see them nowhere. But at 1 a.m. in the night, when I was doing myself a campus tour, I saw people in classrooms, and I was wondering what is happening. And then I realized that here, on an average, people only sleep 3 hours a night. And you want to give yourself that one whole year of learning, of experimenting. And every day of your class is exciting because you are going to learn from the person who's probably written a book that you are referring to. um, so you name it and you have it, and when you want to go into their classes, you want to be well prepared. Imagine somebody like Bruce Allen standing in front of you, who's been a advisor to the US government, is come here to teach you, and you probably have no right questions. That would be a shame. And therefore, it's important that somebody has gone through what is the course material that a professor would have probably sent you as a pre-work. There's so many case studies that the professor would have sent you already that you want to have a a hang of. And I think that is what keeps people going. That is what keeps people alive and kicking, to know that they're going to be a part of such classes. In fact, I can tell you that my boss had this experience, and this is not from the PGP class, but from the PGP Max class. These are mostly the senior execs, vice presidents, senior vice presidents, CEOs of companies, and they all go to this class, and they are thinking that they know it all. And say, for example, the professor just refers to a case and says, "Could you tell me what do you think about the case?" And because you've not read it, you go there and you want to, just say things from your experience. And the professor says, "Can you tell me where in the case are you referring to?" And there is a pin drop silence, because you are not referring from the case, but you are just talking out of what you feel or what you've heard of. And the professor says, "You may leave the class." A CEO having to leave a class, I think it just brings you or hits that reality. And it takes a lot of time for these kind of people also to sink in that this is a classroom setting which will challenge you personally, professionally, intellectually, emotionally. I think the fact that a class like a PGP, where you see such high diversity, people from all backgrounds, there is a lot of tolerance level that goes up in the students, because what we do is, for their um, case studies or their out of class studies, we put them into study groups. And whenever these study groups are formed, it is formed in a manner that no, not many people from the similar backgrounds are supposed to be in that group. So it is mostly heterogeneous in nature.
Mm-hmm.
I think what it does is prepare you for real life situations,
Right.
like a boardroom setting, where you know that you will not find everybody who is with you, on or feels the same way or thinks the same way, and that allows the skill set to be honed further. I think it allows interpersonal growth. I think it also allows a lot of personal excellence in terms of empathy, in terms of
Right.
tolerance, in terms of inclusion, and in terms of allowing another person to shine over yourself.
Sure.
Yeah, so these are some things that we train people on. And I think we do it by design. There is a lot of team effort that goes in. There is something called ASA, which is academic services. There is a team which puts all of this work together, puts people in teams and all of that, and so that the best can come out of every student who are with us.
Sure. And
This other aspect, sorry, I'm just going to add one interesting fact that we do at ISB is that for the electives, the students are given a virtual account, and they can bid for the professors as a class.
mhm.
So the professors send you teasers, a teaser video of theirs, of some master classes that they are doing. And then as a class, you need to come to a consensus that this is the professor that you're voting for. And that is when you bid. So that process itself is a very interesting process. It brings the class together. I think people with different opinions agree to disagree with themselves, and then agree again on one person, and then choose the best that they want to go with. So these are certain interesting facts that we have at ISB.
Lovely. And what are some of the facilities available to students who want to switch careers or, maybe pursue an entrepreneurial interest while in the program?
Thank you, Divya. I think today such a needed stuff that you asked about. We just don't want people to be job ready, but we want them to be ready where they can be the job providers. I think that is one thing that ISB promotes so much, that we have design labs in both our campuses. One is known by D Lab and the other one is known by the Atal Lab, which is in Mohali. Now, what these labs do is act as an incubation center. It allows people to experiment new ideas. It brings in people from different walks of life to say whether your idea is great, workable, not workable, financially viable, not viable. I think a great amount of stress is on social entrepreneurship that we run. I think these are few things that we do. People who are already, people who are in the current classes already start their, venture, and the alums already, in any case, have their own ventures. So I think the entrepreneurial streak at ISB is greatly admired. We don't shoo or turn down ideas. I think we allow it to grow. We question, debate, fight, and agree. And I think it allows, or it gives a platform for everyone, and and is a fertile ground for everyone to experiment.
Great. So we have some questions coming in from some enthusiasts looking at applying this year. So they want to know a bit more about, the specifics or statistics with regards to what you are looking for in your upcoming class, the incoming class.
Okay, and I'm assuming that these statistics are what is the GMAT score that we are looking at, etc. Is it?
Or years of work X,
Okay.
basically your class structure. What are you looking for in an ideal candidate this year?
Yeah. Okay. Um, I think two things. I think any good B school, and it is not necessary or it is not limited to ISB. I think any good B school is not just looking at excellence in one a particular stuff. It is not like you have a great academics and you can get it, or you have a great GMAT score and you can get it, or you have a great work experience and you can get it. I think what we are looking at is a very holistic a candidate who is able to embody, both achievements and the struggles. Um, while the GMAT scores range from 600 and above, um, we've not said that we would not take people at 600, and we are not saying that we would reject people at 600. So that's one aspect of the thing. The other things are, what have you been doing really? Like, why in the first place do you want to come to a B school? We want to understand that, we are also meeting the expectations of the students and not just vice versa. So, are we going to play a role of a catalyst in the lives of the students who are with us, to only make their lives better? Is something that we want to know. And therefore, we search for candidates both ways. One, whether they are the ones who should represent ISB, and whether we fit into their lives as well. So that has been the philosophy. And in this philosophy, we are looking at your academic scores, we're looking at extracurricular activities, we are looking at, of course, GMAT, GRE. We are looking at what is the quality of work experience that you've had, not just the number of years. By the virtue of this program, if you see anybody who has 2 years plus of experience can apply. And if somebody was at the pre-final or final year of college, also would be able to apply, because that comes through something called a YLP, Young Leaders Program,
Right.
where 20 months of work experience, is allowed. So it is not a particular thing that we are looking at, but we are looking at a person holistically.
Mm-hmm.
But beyond all of these layers, what are we really looking at is a person whose authentic self is out there on the application.
Hmm.
You know, so is that coming through? While a person can take help of anyone or any consultant or everything, but I think the idea is whether on the paper when you put yourself, is it you or not?
Right.
Are you able to identify yourself in that paper? Because what happens is after all the if it was not that case, and say for example somebody gets through to the interview, I think that gets exposed, right? I
Right.
mean that is so that's the reason why we say that even if there was a failure, embrace that and have the courage to tell us that this is what it was, and we are good with it. It's not like we're looking for rosy stuff in lives.
Mm-hmm.
Have if there has been a problem, if there has been certain drastic steps that you have to take in your life, tell us about it. I think a lot of times it is difficult to be in a worse situation, and I think that is where your leadership skills also come up, right?
Sure.
So give us that self which is authentic self, which is a true self, which can stand for itself, is what we say in any candidature.
So you just touched upon the ISB Young Leaders program. We have a question about what you look for in YLP candidates, and if you could maybe assign a weightage to the different components you look for while shortlisting candidates for the YLP program.
Sure, Divya. I think, see, YLP is a very interesting side of the PGP program. Now, in YLP, what happens is we are not looking at work experience at all, because by the time people apply, they have no work experience. Yeah. So it is in the pre-final year or final year of their undergrads that they apply. So there are three stages when you apply to YLP. Stage one would only mean that you would send in your academic scores, you would tell us about extracurricular activities, and you would write an essay. Once we go through all of that and we shortlist, is when the stage two starts. And in stage two is where you give your GMAT or GRE, write another essay, and submit your application to us. And then it goes to round three, where if you are shortlisted, then you come for interview. Post interview, it is, and if you're selected, it works like a post dated check. That means you finish 20 months of your work experience and come and join the PGP flagship program. This is how it works. We want, when you come in after 20 months, we want you to definitely give us a work certificate. And it's not necessary that you have to find a job. You probably would join your family business if you have, or you could do your own startup, anything, but something that is work related. That is how it works. I think what we largely look at YLP is the potential leadership qualities that you could represent ISB for or for yourself. That means we are looking at what your dreams and aspirations are. How do you create an impact, or what is your idea of creating an impact in the society that you are in or in the community that you are in? And how can an ISB's program help you achieve that or get to that? This is how largely it depends on. The best part of being with the YLP program is that you are still in the student mode, and therefore GMAT GRE scores are generally higher because people who finish studies, say 3-4 years, and then now have to prepare for GMAT, obviously have a starting trouble. The student mode is not there, and therefore to start again and begin, it becomes a little issue. But that's what is an advantage with YLP. What we are looking for and what is already there in your resume. We also look at a large part of what you do in your free time, your extracurricular activities. Is there something interesting there? Is there something that you are doing continuously to self-improve or improve the lives of people around you? or things like that. So that's what we largely look at YLPs.
Sure. And what percent of students are typically shortlisted in stage one of the YLP program?
Uh, Now that's a classified information, but but I think you see that we get a large number of applications from YLP stream, right? So say for example, we get about 4,000 applications from YLP first stage, probably about 60 to 65% would go into the next stage.
Great. So, being able to pick the right program is crucial given the number of options available today. So, at ReachIvy.com, we meet a lot of students who face this crucial decision. So, who specifically should be applying to your flagship MBA program in terms of the background or any particular traits, apart from what you've already shared with us?
Sure. I think, see, if you see the programs, how it is designed at ISB, especially for the PGP suite, is that PGP, the flagship program, is for the early entrants, 2+ years of experience. They can be of various backgrounds, and that is fine. I think the fact that people come from such many diverse backgrounds, that creates a great class learning, because you have a class where you have people from manufacturing to consulting to finance to anything that you name it, and that adds to the richness of the class.
Sure.
Uh, I think it's also important to understand that where are you in your life today? That means, is it possible for you to take off that 1 year? Because it's an opportunity cost, right? So if somebody has the cushion to do that, nothing can beat a total 1 year of immersive class, wherever you do it from, because that's an entire world for you to be focus yourself on the education that is being imparted and the learnings that you have in and out of the classroom. So that's how we look at a PGP. If you see the PGP Pro program, you'll see that these are the people who haven't had the luxury of taking that time off, and now they think that for them to there has to be something that can help them uh, break that glass ceiling kind of a thing. So that is where they are. If you see the senior executives, they are trying to. It's more like, now, how do I want to take my life forward? And in fact, we had one of the examples of Indian Army officer colonel who was a part of this course, PGP Max, and had never thought would be an entrepreneur himself after finishing a PGP Max course. But I think these are the things that is distinct in these programs. And I don't think it matters which background. We don't choose people from a particular background. I think we keep that very open, and we don't categorize saying that, okay, we will take X% from here or Y% from there. That's not the idea. Divya, am I audible? Hello? Divya?
Hi, Regina. Sorry, we faced a small connectivity issue there. You were telling us about the right fit for the program and who should ideally be applying.
That's correct. That's correct. And I think I've largely answered that question well.
Great. So, can you walk us through, this year's application procedure? Any highlights you'd like to point out?
Hear you. So, I think, like every year, we would begin this year's application portal would be on by the end of this month. There are going to be 3 rounds. One is going to be September, the second one would be December, and the third one would be end of December, first week of January,
Right.
kind of a thing. These are the three rounds that's going to happen. We will, of course, post our essay questions. Should be interesting to see how this year's questions come out to be.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I think what I would like the prospective candidates to do really is believe in the strengths that they have already and play on their strengths, not try to beat themselves with what they don't have or what are the weaknesses, and keep comparing with the strength of others. I think um, I think in India, culturally, we've always been, very good to figure out what we don't have and to compare it with people what they have. So I think we should just change that idea and say that let me play at my strengths, because ISB believes in strength-based interviews. We do strength-based interviews. We are not looking at what is that you are not good at and trying to find out and tell you that this is not what you are, because you already know that, right?
Sure.
So that's one thing that we want people to do. I think
Sure.
there's a lot of time still to the applications, and therefore, how do you make best of this time? Is one, what is that you've been doing apart from what you already do at job, or if you are in the pre-final year or final year? Is there an extracurricular activity that you wanted to take up and you did not? Are there certain more certifications that you could probably do, which kind of tells us that you are interested in the subject? Is there something, probably take a small book and start writing about all the good things that you've done,
Sure.
starting from your school to your college to the workplace, in your society, anything and everything that you can think of. Um, it helps two ways. One, I think, you look at it in the bad days and say, okay, it's not like I'm too bad. And the other thing is, it allows you to choose the best ones from there to put in your essays, because I think that's an opportunity area. And brevity is the key. So it's not like you can write everything about yourself, but we do not want you to miss out on the key aspects that you have already. And if you start from now, just jotting those points down would help you form the entire thing that you want to circle around. What are the 3 or 4 highlights that you want to talk about?
Sure.
The other thing that I would like people to do is think of what is a controllable situation and what is out of control. If the academics is already completed and you are not a part of YLP, that means you still don't have anything that you can really do about the academics. Whatever scores you have, they're going to stay with you for lifetime, right? So then what is the area that you can work on? That could be a GMAT GRE. You could start prepping up with help like ReachIvy to say, how do you do your interviews well? How do you bring in those points in your discussion that highlights your strength, in an interview? Um, how do you um, how do you even have the courage to say that I don't know about this? What is the way to put that forward without demeaning yourself to say that looks like I did bad? Not knowing something is not a certification that you are a worse candidate. So I think just to handle those stress situations, I think those are the things that you can work upon right now. And I think focus on that, the controllable situations, right?
Awesome. We also have another question from a prospective student. With many MBA options out there, like global MBA programs from, say, an SP Gen, what is the advantage of the PGP program over, the other programs out there? And also, if you would share a little about ISB's placements.
Sure. I think two, three things. I wouldn't go on to say, you know, I'm not going to compare ourselves with any B school. I think there is a B school for everyone. You need to find out what suits you the best,
You.
right?
Yes.
So it could be an SPGM for somebody, and it could be an ISB for somebody, and it could be a Harvard from someone else. So
Mhm.
I think what is important is to find out what is that you want from that B school, really, and whether that B school has it for you or not.
Right.
So I think it's a very personal identifying, criteria that you should put under every B school and say that, okay, looks like, because all the information is already out there in public
Right.
domain.
Right.
So you would know what is the strength of ISB versus a strength of a Harvard versus a strength of a, any other B school.
Mhm.
So I think it's an individual choice. I think every school always has an intent to do good for the students. And I think it's not just about ISB, but any good B school will want to bring out the best out of the students. And that is what we aspire to do at ISB as well. Yeah. If you think of the placements, I think this year's placement was one of those beautiful stories. I don't know how much we want to talk about it, because as a philosophy, we don't believe about tooting the horn too much. And I have this diktat of not being allowed to share a lot of data around that. But I think I'll just give you a couple of glimpses of it, and it'll be for you to, decipher, saying, how good or bad we were. We had about 842 people who sat for placements out of the 887 size, the class size of 887. That's because rest of them would have either been, um, doing it because their organizations would have supported them, or they would have started their own startups, or had a business already where they wanted to go back or do something like that, right? So out of these many people, which is about 840, we just had placements for 2 days. And when we had these placements for 2 days, we had about 327 companies that came in.
Wow.
Yeah,
7.
that's correct. And we made offers for about 1,301. So people had choices to make. In fact, we had companies like Deloitte, who took about 80 students.
Wow.
McKinsey took about 37. You know, yeah, and it got recruited for Apple. I think Amazon feels that culturally they have such an understanding with ISB that a couple of them get into the leadership position at Amazon, and even the startups. I think Zomato's. I think you name the companies and we have them all. And I think it's important that not only the placements being successful, that means being just placed, but at what positions are people being placed, or are they getting the roles that they were interested in the first place?
Mhm.
And when you talked about what has been the industry shift or the functional shift, we have seen about 63% of shifts. And I think that's a very comforting place, because what I think two things. It's not just ISB allowing you to do that. I think a program like PGP, where the students are very young, they can be molded, or they can go by the way of elimination as well, saying that, okay, I've tried this, I don't like it, I want to go here. Keeping all that in mind, I think it becomes very easy for us to find out, and I think SEAL does this very early on and engages L&D into it, saying that what is your as is skill set and what is your aspiration, and we map this journey out. So when I think of as is and say that, organically looks like, if you are in consulting, you'll do ABC, but you want to move into product management, say, for example, or for sales and marketing, then there's a different trajectory that you're supposed to take.
Correct.
That becomes your aspirational stuff, right? So what SEAL as a department does, and I talked about SEAL earlier, that they are the students' engagement and applied learning. So this department maps this journey, and and intervenes in the life of a ISB student at certain point in time to take that aspirational journey forward.
Sure.
So that is how it works. And then the career advancement services, which is CAS, which does this placement stuff, comes into picture early on with SEAL to say that, okay, tell me about a candidate, saying that what looks organic and what looks aspirational, and then customize it for them to say that, okay, if you want to go from this to that, then probably these are the next steps that you're supposed to do, and then connects them with the alums who've done that probably, or been there, or are there in that industry, for them to understand that, how should they now take it forward if they want to change, or want to take a very different route than they are in already. So these are the departments which come together, play a very critical role in the lives of students, and take it forward from there.
Great, thanks for that. And every year we have students who have applied on their own previously and are now applying with us.
Okay.
Very committed to getting their coveted spot at ISB. So, any advice you'd like to share with our students who are reapplying this year?
I think, first of all, I think I can say that they're in safe hands. So
Thank you.
So I think you have a team of expert advisors who can help them do things that they probably missed out on doing.
Mm-hmm.
Hello?
Sorry, I just lost you there. If you could just repeat what you said.
Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible now. I lost you for a minute. If you could please repeat what you just said.
Sure. I'm not know where you lost me, but I was just saying that, they probably, so if these people have come to you, I was saying that probably in safe hands already, and you have a team of experts who can help them with what probably they had missed out earlier. But having said that, what remains very crucial and core is their authentic self. I think the idea is to put that on paper and bring that as a holistic self, in the interviews as well. Remain true to yourself, just not become somebody else for the sake of applying to a school.
Sure.
And and that's the key to all of this. But I think also when we look at reapplicants, we are asking them a question saying that, how is it different from how you applied last year, right? Mm-hmm. So I think that's a question that would need a lot of introspection. I think the commitment is out there, because if you're reapplying, that means you're really committed to coming here, Right. And there could be any reason. See, and we always say this at ISB, that it is not necessary just because you were at ISB, you got certain things. It doesn't happen that way. I think it's a whole self. I think what ISB does is allow you to, bring that entire personality together, right? So during your placement, we cannot say that it was because of ISB alone, because you probably went to the schools, you had teachers, you had your parents, you had your mentors, and then ISB happened, and then through ISB this happened, right? So I think we do not want to minus all of that as well. Likewise, when you come as a reapplicant, I think it's important that we know already that you're committed to it. Maybe that day did not just work out for you. And we at ISB do not want to be biased by how you did last year. So while we ask you this question, we do not refer back to your last year's file. Mm-hmm. So and none of the so none of the evaluators would see that as well. So you have 100% chance to make it, so so I think just be out there and just forget about, you couldn't make it. Think that this is a fresh start, and just do it with your true self, and I think it'll just be fine.
Absolutely. And in your presentation, you mentioned that you have a couple of international students also who are part of the program. So how does ISB assist international students, with placements and career guidance? And what if they are looking at, returning to their home country? What type of support would they receive on the same?
So, Divya, if you see, we already have alums in more than 40 countries, right? So,
Mhm.
and we have chapters in most of the countries. So that's one side of it. Do we place students internationally? The answer is yes. We have placed them last year. And we also take up global positions, even for our Indian students who want to do a job abroad. So we try to bring in companies, from outside as well. Of course, those are not very large in number. And, I wouldn't want to mince words saying that, no, we place like a lot of people abroad. Largely because people want to come in and want to work in emerging economies. That is the reason why probably a foreign student chooses an ISB, and they generally want to stay back. So most of the times you'll see that companies like Samsung or banks, they send us people who they want them to study at ISB's flagship program and then take up leadership positions in these countries. That's a part of it. But there are a lot of students who come on their own, especially the expats, etc., who now want to stay back in India
Yeah.
or the Asian countries as well.
Sure.
Also, there are students who want to go out of the country and work, and that's also true. So we do that. We do that. We do have we work towards their placements. We work towards their aspirations. We try to connect them with the alums, and we try to give them as much help as possible in those aspects.
Great. And is there any type of financial aid available to students applying for your flagship program? And if so, if you could tell us a little more who would be the ideal candidate for the same.
Absolutely. I think a great thing to touch upon. You would be surprised, Divya, that we have about 90 scholarships.
Oh, 90.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I know. I mean, we've never talked about it, and I think somehow, I think it never. We thought people would know about it, and that was a wrong assumption. We have about 90 scholarships, and our scholarships are designed in a way that it should address need, merit, diversity. Bridging gaps from the world to India. These are the large headers that we work on. In fact, you will be surprised that we also help people post their ISB if they take up jobs in the social sector, where they do not earn as much as people earn in the corporate sectors, right?
Mhm.
So, under the Develop India Foundation, we actually finance their EMIs post they have left ISB. So,
Wow.
yeah, so those are certain things that we do at ISB, and we're absolutely proud, and we are very sure that anybody who deserves to be in ISB would not be returned because of a financial crisis.
Yeah.
That is how it works. We have tied up with banks who give you collateral free loans, so which means an admit from ISB is enough a guarantee for the bank. So there is no doubt that we want people to come in, and cannot be a showstopper for them.
Great. Great. That's really nice to hear. And I think thank you so much for your time. You've really shared so much of information, very useful to those looking at applying this year, and of course, prospective students throughout. So, if you had one last piece of advice to give students applying to the program, what would it be?
I think, of course, I've been harping on this fact of authenticity, and um, I cannot say enough, but to keep talking about this fact that really bring in your authentic self. Give yourself permission to talk about your strengths. Do not shy away. You know, um, it's not being boastful, but in humility, I think you should be able to say that looks like these are the things that I'm good at, and I would like to take that forward. Give yourself this permission that there is place for everyone. It is not by taking away someone's place that you will be in that place. There is abundance, there is enough. I would give you a small example. The infrastructure at ISB can hold 892 students very comfortably. That's the threshold for us as the admissions team. 600 in Hyderabad and 292 in Mohali. We had to admit four more students this year, and it did backfire on us for admissions, saying that we don't want people to suffer because you took admissions. But we had no way to say a no to a deserving candidate who was at par with anybody else at this 892 students. We had to make place, so do not think that it is not there for you. I think go with this abundance mindset that you are supposed to be there. You will get it. So just trust that it is all it's all going to be working out for you. And people are there for you. It is not people are against you. When we see an application, we are not doing it by the way of elimination. We are trying to see how can we have you with us. So keep that as a mindset. uh, if you have a dream, we are here to help you achieve that. Think that. So come from that mindset and write about in your essays through that mindset. Work on your controllable points. You're already in safe hands, as I said, and I think just trust yourself and trust everything will be working out fine. And be your authentic self. Just remain true to yourself. That's my advice.
Great words of wisdom, Regina. Thank you so much for your time and joining us on this webinar today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Divya. And I think my gratitude to Reach Ivy, and not just because you work, with the students to make their applications great just for ISB, but for all the great B schools. I think it's important that they have a handing they have someone side by side to help them through this journey, to understand, to empathize, to take them forward and say that you deserve it. I think that's a great job that you guys are doing, and I'm absolutely grateful that you're changing lives and touching and transforming people's lives in the way you do it. So many congratulations, and thank you for this wonderful opportunity this afternoon. I know it is Saturday, and everyone is busy. Could have taken off, but you are still doing it for the students. Wonderful thing to do. A lovely thing, and I think just whenever you want us to come and speak again, we'd be happy to do that. Yeah, you've been a great host, so thank you so much.
Likewise. Thank you so much. Have a great evening. Bye.
Yeah. Bye.